we are still adding just a couple more folks, but I think in the interest of time, I am going to get us started. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the last hour of training for today. I'm really excited, and I hope you all are too. I hope that you've gotten, some really great tips and thoughts from this morning. And this afternoon, we're going to be talking a little bit about virtual programming. I know many of you are already returning, so a lot of this, you're actually the experts. And so I would love to pass this off so that you all just teach each other, but I am going to kind of facilitate the conversation a little bit. I do have 2 mentors who are joining me and sharing some of their best practices. And then I'm going to try and fly through the rest of and just highlighting a couple of the things that I think are super important for us to still keep in mind as we go through the rest of the semester. So with that said, I'm gonna try and get this going. All right, so before I get started with anything, I am just going to highlight again that the 3 things that I really want folks to keep in mind is just to be really prepared, right? So we have the curriculum. We want you to be able to check in with your mentor teams and make sure that everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody is familiar with the slides. They know the flow of things. I think it's really super important because if you're not prepared, the mentors will not, the mentees will pick up on it pretty quickly. And it'll also just make things feel a little bit more chaotic and not as settled and calm as things could be. The second one is making sure that you as a mentor are having fun and that you are also moving your body. So I know for myself, I'll sit all day in front of a computer and I don't move, and then I get up and it hurts. I don't want that to be the case. I want to make sure that everybody is, having fun and also moving your body. So keep that one in mind. And then the last one is, I know we already said that the curriculum is really super important. We worked very hard on it as a team. We have a whole bunch of volunteers who have also contributed. I also wanted to just shout out Julia Welsh, who did a lot of work helping us with the curriculum and all the slides this semester. She's fantastic. She did so much work. I just wanted to say thank you to her. And that being said, I also want you to be really flexible. I know that the curriculum is like set out, you have all the slides and things look really great, but sometimes that's just not what everybody needs, right? If you in your session find that your mentees just need to sit and vent and just talk for a whole 45 minutes before you do anything, I would rather you do that than try and force the curriculum. If you're going through activities and it feels like we're not going to get to this piece of it, you can cut that part out and go to the parts that you think are going to be more impactful. Honestly, I would rather you just sit on a Zoom call and just giggle with your mentees for an hour than to try and force anything, because I think that's what we all kind of need. This virtual setting is, just a nightmare, and I want us to feel safe and happy with each other. So by the end of your hour, you feel a little bit better than when you started, right? Okay, so that being said, I'm actually going to invite Sierra and Sage, 2 mentors who we really found were really great in their virtual settings. And we're going to have them introduce themselves. And then I'm also going to jump in, and Sarah's also going to jump in on why we, selected them specifically, just to embarrass folks a little bit. But Sierra or Sage, whoever wants to go first, you can introduce yourself.
Okay, I can go first. Hi everyone, I'm Sage. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm part of the Northeastern chapter of SWSG, and I'm a 2nd-year biology major. And I joined SWSG because I really enjoy working with young girls and people who identify with girlhood. It's just quite a, magical perspective to be able to share with someone, and it's really cool to help them build upon their worldview and all of that through mentors. And I also really enjoy learning from them. I think they've taught me a lot, and I also really enjoy SWSG's opportunity to be surrounded by a bunch of other strong women. And coming to Boston from my hometown, it was just really fun to surround myself with that kind of community. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
And then, hi everyone, I'm Sierra. I'm a sophomore at BU studying education. My pronouns are she, hers, and then I joined Strong Women, Strong Girls because coming to college, I also wanted something to do with female empowerment. And what's super cool about Strong Women, Strong Girls is not only is it a group of feminists, but you actually get to do things every week, meet with girls, And the whole experience as a whole is very impactful, meaningful. And I like that every single week you kind of get that feeling, you get re-energized that you're making a little bit of a difference. But yeah, it's hands-on and super fun.
Great, thank you. So Sarah, would you tell us why you nominated Sage?
Yes, and I don't want to embarrass you, Sage, but you were one of the first people that came to mind when we were thinking about people for this panel, because I remember in one of my site observations just being really impressed with the way you maintained energy in your session. You both have this like very calm presence that I can tell the mentees really enjoyed, and you were also really able to like harness that in a very engaging way. You did such a great job with making sure that all of the kids felt loved and held and engaged in your programming. And I think that we can all learn from that. So thank you so much for being here and for being the mentor that you are. And I'm excited to have you on the panel.
Great. And I nominated Sierra because I got to see her in action at her site. And I was so impressed with her slides. I gushed about it literally for like several days with Trisha and Sarah. I was just like, they're so great. And so we're going to ask her to actually show the work that she did in like kind of completely revamping the curriculum, the slides that we put together. And I think that it just shows how much prep went into the work before she even gets into the room with the mentees. And I just want to emphasize again that, you know, like the more you do ahead of time, the easier it'll be to just kind of have a natural conversation and just hang out with, and you don't have to worry so much about things. So with that being said, I think I am going to just ask the first question. What do you like the most about mentoring? And whoever can go first.
So did you just want to go first every time and then?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Sarah. Let's see, what do I like most about mentoring? I think this semester especially, I just really enjoyed when, I mean, of course, like we have a curriculum that we're following in SWSG, but I really enjoy the moments where the girls would just tell us about something that happened in their week, and not necessarily even through peaks and valleys or something like that, but they would just like brighten up and share, oh, like I did this art thing, or oh, here's my cat. Like, and I think virtual mentoring this semester had a very interesting element to add about like we're joining the girls like in their homes. So I really appreciated that when they like want to share stuff that's around them and stuff that's happening that's even completely unrelated to what we're talking about. It's always really cool because that means they feel comfortable sharing, you know, other parts of their lives with us, which is really nice.
Yeah, going off of that, I think just the fact that like it can be something fun sort of in this dark time for everyone as a mentor and as a mentee, that's the goal, is that it's a space that you feel comfortable and you feel excited to be there. We actually had a mentee's mom reach out to me and just let us know that like this is her daughter's bright spot in her week, which is like obviously during the COVID times, like that's a huge message to receive. So I just think knowing that like you are making a difference, it is only an hour, but for these girls, it could be their space to just literally hang out, talk. So yeah, so I think just the idea that you do get to make that difference and see it as well is the best part about being a mentor.
Thank you. I mean, I see that magic all the time, so I'm really glad that you get to see that in your sessions too. How do you prep for your sessions? I'm gonna ask Sierra to go first.
Yeah, so as a site leader, first I look through the week's curriculum. So I use the lesson plan sheet and then the slides deck that Strong Women Strong Girls gives us. And then I make my own PowerPoint using SlideSgo, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But basically, I'll make my own PowerPoint, and then I also do something called annotated slides, which I'll talk about as well later. But basically, on Sundays, meet with my mentor team. We split up the responsibilities for the week and talk about the lesson plan. Then like we have a Slack, I send out links for everyone so everyone knows what's going on. But then like as a mentor, I would just make sure that like read through the curriculum, look through the PowerPoints, and make sure to reach out if there is any questions about vocabulary or an activity. And then we meet like 15 minutes before our session each week, just so we can sort of get things ready.
Man, Sierra, that mad respect, like that's a lot of work and time that you're putting in to that. I feel like I didn't do as much logistical stuff as you, but I will also add on that it was really helpful. I'm sure you also included this in your PowerPoints to just assign slides to each mentor. So like, you know, going in like an alternating pattern just so everyone gets time to talk and no one is left being like, oh my gosh, is this my slide? Is this your slide? Just label all of those before you get in. That's really helpful. And of course, review the curriculum. My chapter does this in cohort meetings right after our weekly chapter meeting. We'll go over the curriculum as well. And we also cover some maybe uncertain vocabulary or uncertain topics that are coming up through our best practices meetings, which are every week. So I don't know if that's the same across all chapters, but that's also been really helpful. And yeah, Sarah covered a lot of it. Great job.
Great. So how do you keep energy up for yourself or for your mentees, and also for your team? How do you keep your energy up in a session?
I can go first. I just think everyone, obviously Zoom fatigue is a huge thing. So everyone's tired by the time that you're here. It is after school. But I think just knowing that like you only are here 1 hour a week. So of course everyone has bad days, especially the mentors. We're all human. But like if you can really just try your best for that 1 hour to just smile and be present with the mentees because your energy is contagious. So as I said, everyone has a bad day, but really just trying to be at your best for that hour and sort of let the activities energize you, like try to really have fun with it. And then as far as the mentees go, I think just really being responsive to their needs, like everyone's been saying, like it's okay to change the curriculum as you go. If you need to spend a while on peaks and valleys because you need to unpack some stuff from the day, like that is totally fine. That is the priority. But also adding in little things like earlier we talked about dance breaks, like games, like whatever they need to sort of get them excited. Like our mentees also do like cartwheels and stuff like that, or maybe you say like go find something blue in your house and then they come back and show you something blue. Whatever they need to feel just engaged, definitely do it.
Yeah, I'd like to add on, it's always helpful to have, especially while you're waiting for everyone to like trickle in, just have like a kid-friendly playlist playing in the background. Everyone always gets a kick out of that. And I also like to get everyone engaged by putting maybe a poll in the Zoom for right before everything starts. Ooh, switch playlist. That's cool. And maybe it'll be something about something that happened that week, like the week that it snowed. I'd put in a poll and be like, oh, like, what's your favorite thing to do when there's a snow day? And then they all like to share something about that, and they could pick and answer the poll. They could send it in the chat. That just keeps everyone engaged. And yeah, definitely just making sure that, I mean, our site would have a group chat, and just making sure everyone's like ready and energized and just checking in with people is really important too. And yeah, oh, I did want to add one more thing. I'm sorry about preparing for mentoring. And this is less like on the curriculum and like Switch side and more on like your space kind of side. I know that last semester, like we would go out to the sites and interact with the girls there, but since you're doing it virtually this semester, it's important to like let everyone that you're living with know that you're going to be mentoring, because sometimes you'll be like shouting or like moving around, and just making sure that everyone else like is aware of that and isn't going to be concerned for some reason, or just to make sure that their schedule is clear so you're not going to be like intruding in one of their meetings or something like that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I wish I could tell the construction guys to stop doing this right now because I'm in a training, but sometimes that also happens too. And so we can keep those things in mind. Like if anything does come up, we're human, we're trying our best to just get through it. But yeah, if you can try and prep your space and your just the folks around you, that is a big help. All right, so next question is, what do you do if you end up with like a really small group of mentees? I don't know either of your sites if they were really small, but do you have any suggestions for what you can do to kind of just adapt to a different group than you were anticipating?
Yeah, so for our first week, we had only one mentee, and then I think, yeah, our second week, we got a second mentee, but we did stay with just two mentees the whole semester. I think it's really good because you get to know them on a really deep level, and they get to know you as well. But I think it does depend on the personality of the girl. I'm sure everyone knows. So we had two really outgoing, loud, happy girls, but I think you can definitely have a girl who's more like shy, reserved, and would rather be in a bigger group space. So I think in that case, again, just respond to the individual needs. And I think one thing that you can do, like if you do have one mentee who's like a little bit more shy, like making sure that she doesn't feel pressured in any way, but also like I think you can relax the environment by really engaging the mentors and making it feel like 5 equals rather than just all the spotlight on one mentee and everyone sort of like asking her questions, like open up the questions to everyone and like make it seem equal between everyone to sort of alleviate that as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Those were all really good points. Yeah, it could definitely at a certain point, if you're not sharing the space, kind of like make the mentee maybe feel like they're being interrogated, even though we're all here just to have fun. So definitely like for peaks and valleys, like we would just all share something. If we were reading a passage, we I think I was at JFK last semester. Sorry, I didn't provide any context, but I think we usually had around 1 to 3 mentees at a time, and so similar situation to Sierra. And yeah, just making sure that everyone just comes in and as pretty much equals and shares the weight of maybe like reading a passage. If the girls are getting, tired, sometimes they would like, be super fired up and like want to read a whole bio, and sometimes they wouldn't. So just like knowing when to step in and be like, oh yeah, I'll like take this paragraph, like totally. Um, that's just good to just put feelers out and make sure everyone's pretty like comfortable. And yeah.
Yeah, I would also reemphasize that, get to know your co-mentors. It's a whole hour where you can get to know them a little bit deeper. And, like it's unlikely that you'll ever get to ask what somebody's ice cream flavor is unless you explicitly ask. And so there's a whole opportunities for you to really get to know your team, get to know them deeper, and also like in a more fun way, right? Because in meetings, we don't ask each other fun questions. We don't get to play. We don't get to do scavenger hunts with each other. I think this is a cool opportunity if you have a small group to really engage with your co-mentors. So what are some other best practices that you have for your facilitation? So I know I've talked a little bit about like making sure you're prepared, the slides. What else have you kind of learned and picked up in the virtual setting that's worked really well for you?
So for this one, I'm going to share my screen in a bit, but basically I make my own PowerPoints through the website Slides Go, which I'll put the link in the chat. It does take a little bit of extra prep, like probably an hour a week, but I do this because for a couple reasons. One, although the Strong Women Strong Girls PowerPoints, like the slide decks are perfect and everything, I just think it helps me and my team like really personalize it to the girls in our group. It also, we can add in things like breaks however we need. And then also they're really cute. So I put the link in there. And then now I'm going to share the 2 links, and I'm going to share my screen in a second. But basically, we have 2 slideshows. So the first one is the main slides, and then this is where I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So this is just 1 week example. They have different themes every week, but basically, this was our week 3. So this is what the slides look like, but then I make something called annotated slides, and I'm going to go to those in 1 second. Okay. So basically here is where I write all the details. This is stuff I take from curriculum and also just from our own meetings. And then what we do is the mentors have this on the side of their screen. They split it with Zoom. And then as a site leader, I share my screen. So then I put it on my phone and prop it in front of my laptop so I can see it. But basically they have little boxes on each slide and it says whose slide it is to talk. I give a little bit of a timer. It's not obviously end all be all, but just an idea if we're spending a little bit of time or a lot of time on this. So basically for the first slide, it's always just the responsibilities. Because we had a small group, we didn't really do the individual responsibilities like Zoom facilitator, things like that. We just all did that. But yeah, so then times, and then on slides, so like in this week we were talking about a role model with a disability and who represented the LGBTQ community. We talked about pronouns. So here is a good spot where I'm talking about things from curriculum. So maybe ideas that were in there about how to facilitate these conversations. And then also like the survey slide. So we talked about that. And then, yeah, so during the readings, different things are here. So maybe terms, I just define them here so that none of the mentors have to panic on the spot. We can have something, we talk about these definitions together. As well as like prompting questions for discussion. And then the last thing is just like general facilitation. So like sometimes I'll write like girls read or popcorn read just to give ideas of how to keep it more engaging. And then lastly, to closing the cheer. And then we do something called pros and deltas in my team. Basically at the end, we just talk about what went well and what we can improve for next time. And this really helped me as a site leader because like for the goals, those are super easy to implement usually. So I try to always do them by the next week. How can we incorporate them? But it's also important to talk about the pros and what went well and just pat everyone on the back with that. But yeah, and then one more thing for the slides, we always do a dance break during our session, and it's like usually an empowering song. But this way the girls love this and it's something that they can look forward to. But yeah, so I shared these. I think everyone should be able to view them, but it's just an example and you can make these with slides go super easily. Hold on, I'm gonna stop sharing. But yeah, it definitely helps with personalizing it to your site, and then also just adding in all these little things that are helpful. But yeah.
Thanks, Sierra. Those are amazing. They're so nice.
Yes, very functional, and they're beautiful, like pretty much, design worthy. Yeah. For me, I think I have two tips. Both of them are pretty specific, I guess. For the first one, it would just be a general advice about like YouTube videos or stuff that you're going to be opening up in another tab. I know a lot of the PowerPoints came with like videos embedded. It's always helpful to just open those before mentoring starts. So when the video does pop up, there's no like random ad before it. I know that's kind of like silly, like I didn't think of it before, but then I try opening stuff and then there'd be like a 5-second ad. Sometimes they were not appropriate for like elementary schoolers, so it's definitely good to just get that out of the way before you start your presentation. And another thing that one of my co-mentors actually taught me how to do, or not taught me how to do, but told me how to use, it would be really helpful to create kind of like on any given slide in your deck a circle, kind of like make like a circle time, and maybe pick some stickers that are seasonal or like related to a holiday that's coming up, or just something fun, maybe like sports equipment or something like that. Just pick any theme and make a circle on one of your blank slides, and assign girls, let them choose what sticker they want to be in the circle, and then you just go clockwise or counterclockwise whenever people are sharing things, just so that no one gets talked over or stepped on, and just so everyone has knows when they'll be next and has time to prepare their thoughts. That was super helpful, and the girls like being able to choose like, oh, I want like the pumpkin sticker, I want the witch. So like we did that for Halloween, and that was pretty helpful, and they got a kick out of that as well. And as well, my co-mentors, we liked being in the circle. It almost made it feel like we're in a circle for real, like in real life. But yeah, those are my two tips.
Great, thank you. These are all really fantastic ideas, and I know that we're trying to incorporate some of these things. I know I'm going to show you all in a second what Sage is talking about, that circle, the visual thing. We've added them to every single slide deck now at the end as just like extra resources. It also includes the SWSG playlist that Julia helped us put together, and you all can jump in on it, add songs. I would really like it if they're not Ariana dirty songs because she has a lot of them, but like there are lots of like other wholesome songs that you could also be playing that we can all share, and you can add songs to it and things like that. I'll be showing those in just a little bit. So I just have one last question for Sierra and Sage. So if you have just one takeaway from virtual programming, what do you think every mentor should try to do this semester?
Oh, go ahead. Okay. I think definitely, and I think this is across a lot of different extracurriculars, common theme is that if you're doing programming over Zoom, you definitely want to be giving like 110%, because through the screen, it's just really not the same. But that can be that can be a lot. It's definitely important to, I think, support your co-mentors through that. I know the girls are definitely here for fun, and we're also here for fun, but definitely just checking in and making sure that everyone's ready to go, and just offering support as you can, just to make sure that everyone's there to be able to give that 110%. So
Yeah, I'm going to add something about building relationships, because obviously in the Zoom setting it's different, you're not in person, so it can feel harder to connect. But some things that I think are helpful. One is video audio feedback. It's super important, audio visual feedback. It's super important, like as we're all on the screen, but like nodding your head, like when they're sharing peaks and valleys, like have a mentor who's unmuted who can just, oh my God, that's awesome, or like responding. It seems like a little thing, but it's really important at just letting them know that they're heard. Sometimes it can be kind of awkward if we're doing peaks and valley and everyone's muted, so then they share and you sort of sit there. Just having a mentor that's like, oh my God, that's awesome, like really great, like those things are really important, and it sort of helps us feel more in person. So that's one thing. And then I would say like connect the material to them as much as possible. Sometimes it's hard to have these conversations about LGBTQ, for example, like if the girls don't have a lot of experience. So like when we're talking about advocacy, things like that, like make sure your discussion questions are really relevant to them and prompt their thinking about how it's relevant to their lives. I think it helps them feel connected to the material. And then lastly, like letting them get to know you, making that space to share about yourself. We want them to see us as people as well. Although we're in a mentor role, like we want them to know, oh my God, I have a dog too. Like something as simple like that can really help them feel connected. And then also like asking for their input as well. Like if there's something that they want to do, like listen to them, hearing out. So like I said, we do pros and like maybe once a semester, like talking with the girls, like what do you guys want to see at session? How can we make it better? But yeah, so those are some tips about building relationships, because it's definitely weird in the virtual setting. But I think there's still ways to get it done.
Great, thank you so much to both Sierra and Sage. Can I'm going to put us back to gallery view. Can everybody just show some appreciation for both of them? You can use your, you know, the reactions. You can throw it in the chat. Just let them know they're fantastic, right? And this is the case for all of you. I know many of you would have been fantastic on this panel. We just happened to pick these two because they responded to us first. But thank you so much to everybody. Thank you for all of your hard work and for sharing your materials and your tips and things like that. So I'm going to where is it? Where'd it go? Okay, all right. All right, so we're going to take a quick body break. We're going to do a quick scavenger hunt, and this timer is something I actually stole from Sierra. You can go on YouTube and just search different YouTube timers, and they'll play them. Some of them have really cute music, some of them have annoying music, some of them don't have any music. You can kind of pick whatever works for you. So I'm giving us 3 minutes, and I'm going to ask everybody to, you can turn your camera off if you want, run and find 3 things: something that starts with an S, something that starts with a W, and something that starts with a G. And after 3 minutes, we're gonna just come back and I'm gonna ask folks to just kind of show and tell what you found, okay? So I'm starting this with the, can you hear it? Okay, that's fine. Okay, time's up. Is everybody back? Does anybody want to show us what you found, S, W, or G objects? You can put it in the chat too if you don't want to turn your camera on and show us. Soup, yep. Sriracha, nice. Sticky notes, water bottle, sugar, scrunchie. Did everybody at least get out of their seat? Olaf? We have an Olaf. Yeah, wow, you guys are good at this. I just walked around in a circle for a little bit. I couldn't find anything. Did everybody get out of their seat though? At least? Okay, that was the trick. That's what I wanted. More than the items. It's just to get everybody up and stretching. You can also think of other ways to just stay in your seat and do a little bit of stretching. You can tell everybody to just like notice tension in your body, like right now. Unclench your jaws, relax your face. And then sometimes when I'm doing this or I'm thinking about this, I'm like, oh my God, I've been clenching my jaw this entire time. You don't think about it. You can ask folks to just do something very simple like that, okay? Okay, so I'm going to get into the rest of these slides. I am going to try and get through them as quickly as possible, just so we can get out of here on time. Please stop me if you have any questions. A lot of this is already stuff that you know, stuff that we've already been through. So dry runs should have been happening last week. I know this is an opportunity for mentors just to meet with site facilitators, just to get a sense of what's going on. Any info you should know about the groups. Dry runs, if you're starting a week late, will also be running next week. So if you have any issues with this, please reach out to us and let us know if the site facilitator is not checking in, or that they, you're having a hard time reaching them, things like that. I also just want you all to remember that the site facilitators are volunteering for this role and working with Strong Women, Strong Girls. And so they've got a lot of other programs, a lot of school stuff going on. I just want you to keep in mind that they are doing everything they possibly can, and to please be flexible and nice to them, because they are going to be the ones who continue the conversations and continue the partnerships that we have. And like I said, if you have any issues, any concerns, they're not getting back to you, you're really concerned, let us know. We can try and help find them. So in terms of materials, we've already talked a lot about all the curriculum, all these slides, the attendance that's going to be happening. A lot of this is mainly for site leaders, but this is just for you all to know that your chapter directors have all of this information. If you're missing something, if we reach out and ask you for something, you'll have access to these. We can quickly add you to any of these things too. I think for the most part, we've tried to add everybody to a Google folder that if you've been placed at a site, you should have access to see the first couple slide decks. I was able to work through the first 7 lesson plans, and those slide decks should be in there with updates and things like that. I'm going to try and get the rest of them done by Monday. Incident reports, I know we've talked about this too. If anything should come up, there's an easy way to kind of click and access through that. It's in the curriculum, but I'll show you in a second just where on the slides that it's a little easier to access to. So I'm going to just echo again what Sage and Sierra have said. We have to prep a lot of things ahead of time and getting really familiar with Zoom, right? So I'm facilitating the session and my screen is completely blank. And that means that I need help, other people to kind of help manage the chat, manage letting people in, all these different things. You kind of really need to make sure that you're going through that with each other. Getting familiar with the participant features. How many of you know that there are raised hands features on Zoom? Do you know there's a coffee icon too? Yeah, Joyce raised her hand. Yeah, and so if you want to play around with those, you can use these as a way to engage young people. If they're not, ready to be on camera, you can ask them to, let's all have some coffee and pretend or something. The virtual backgrounds is another thing. If you would like to, sometimes you can kind of put a different background. If you don't want to share your space, if you want to make sure that it's just you and that the rest of your room isn't distracting, do that. The music, we've said that quite a bit, and also the enthusiasm, kind of dial it up a little bit. I know that it feels a little awkward, but it really does help if your energy is big, because then your mentees will also feel the same way. Another thing is also just remembering the view. You can ask folks to change the different views, make sure that everybody can see each other. Another thing is we really hope that you're not doing too much screen sharing time. You know, if it's peaks and valleys, you can just show peaks and valleys as part of the agenda, and you can turn it off so everybody can actually see each other and things like that. It's like this scavenger hunt, right? I could have kept the slide up, but it's easier and nicer just to kind of take it off so that we can all see each other. And then the last piece is just accessibility. I know that if you are able to turn your closed captions on, it's just an access thing to make sure that everybody is able to participate. Personally, I really like captions when I'm watching TV at home, and it's kind of the same for Zoom too. So every week, I hope that folks are kind of thinking about the different roles that are kind of laid out. So the first one is a site leader. This is a point person that's in charge of doing all the attendance. And we really try and make sure that they are the ones who we can check in with. Week by week, if there are updates, if there are changes to anything. The next one is a lead facilitator. So somebody who is doing there's kind of like moving things along, making sure everybody is on track and also it's keeping an eye on time. And then the last two are one person has to be the Zoom person. And unfortunately is really challenging. Like I said, if you're sharing your screen, it's really hard to, I don't know what you're saying in the chat right now. And it's also very hard to juggle all of these things. So it's very important to kind of divide up a role for everybody. The last one I think is underrated of a role is how do you make sure that you're supporting the chat? How are you making sure that you're supporting watching people, their body language and things like that? It looks like Sarah wants to say something. And if you're facilitating, it's sometimes really hard to be able to catch everybody. And so we hope that you all can kind of make sure you divide that up and make sure that everybody gets, you know, if somebody says something in the chat, you want to respond to that and make sure that each kind of share is definitely addressed. How many, by a show of hands, how many folks actually divided up your sessions into these different roles and used that throughout the time? Yeah. Yeah, so a couple people are doing it. I really hope that you do because we also want you to be able to kind of rotate your roles too. We don't want just one person to have to do the Zoom all the time. It can get really, really tiring to be that person because it kind of takes you away from being able to engage in the same way. And we really want everybody to kind of rotate and make sure that everybody gets a chance. By the end of this semester, we hope that you all are going to be Zoom professionals. I've definitely seen some mentors who are really, really good at this. I'm still, you know, fumbling through. But we can all, you know, just improve our Zoom skills because you can start to put that on your resumes pretty soon too. I've already said all of this. Make sure you prep breakout rooms, prep polls if you use them. Sometimes there will be lesson plans where we ask you to kind of prep an art activity. It's really helpful if you hold that up as a sample so that the mentees know what they should try to work towards, right? So if you can do all of that, that's fantastic. I've already said this, make sure that you're checking in and practicing and make sure you practice how to have fun too, right? Practice the games, practice the get actives. Do you feel like it's fun enough? If it's not fun enough, what can you do to tweak it and make it a little bit more engaging, right? I think there are always ways to do this. Any questions so far? Doing okay? Okay, so Zoom, we've shortened the program. We're trying to keep our sizes pretty small. I think there are many, many sites out there who have much, much less mentees than we're hoping for. And I think we're all just kind of burnt out, right? They have school a long time throughout the day. And it is asking folks to kind of take on a little bit extra time to jump on Zoom and to hang out with us. And so every once in a while, it can feel a little discouraging that not as many young people are signing on to have fun with us. But just keep that in mind that, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on and we have who we have and let's have fun with whoever's in the room already. This is just a quick slide that Trisha made up for us. This is from their registration forms. So this is information from families about what's going on with the young people. So we're seeing that young people are spending maybe 15 to 45 minutes doing any sort of movement in their day. That's not a whole lot, right? If you think about how long the entire day is compared to they're online, you know, 6 to 8 hours, a lot of them. a lot of our young people are on 3 to 8 hours a day. And that's, it's not a best practice. We really hope that they shouldn't be, but that's the reality. And so we really want you to make sure that folks are moving, getting out of their seat, taking breaks as many times as you possibly can, actually. Okay. So I'm going to very quickly just kind of touch on all the different pieces. I just want to emphasize here that the get active movement breaks, get the sillies out, get everybody out of your seat and say so, and say like, I'm starting to feel a little tense. Let's all stand up and do just a quick stretch and then sit down again. How many folks are familiar with the Pomodoro method? Have you all heard of this? A couple folks. So I am more new to this, and I just recently learned that you should do things in kind of break chunks of 25 minutes at a time. Because if you're just focusing on 25 minutes, a big project won't feel so intense, right? If you can just focus 25 minutes and then take a break. And so I want you all to just kind of think of your session as breaking it up into like 2 chunks, making sure you have a break in the middle so everybody gets up and moves a little bit so that you come back and you're a little bit more refreshed. These parts, just want to emphasize that we're doing a lot of reviewing and previewing. This is a lot to do with social emotional learning. It has a lot to do with trauma-informed practice, is how do we make sure that we're reviewing what we've already done? How do we make sure that we tell everybody what else is coming up in the future? I think it's just really very helpful. The bios, we've tried to add a lot more videos in, just as a way to kind of engage people differently and actually get to hear the voices of our role models. So please use those videos. I think they're really great. I think some groups really like videos, some groups really like reading. Can you all throw in the chat what you think your mentees have enjoyed more, the videos or the reading? Mostly videos, okay. That's okay. Some reading, yeah. Great. Yeah, and everybody loves to watch videos, but I'm always very impressed that young people always want to read also. I know that the videos are more engaging in some ways, but there are lots of sites that I've also seen where the mentees just really like reading and they like trading off with each other, and I think it's super cool that they like reading. Okay, so main activities, we really tried to cut down on material needs because it's very challenging right now. And so almost all of the lesson plans are designed so that you only need a pencil and paper and maybe some art supplies. I know many of the mentees already got a supply kit with, markers, crayons, and supplies to be able to do these activities. But for the most part, everybody should be able to participate in the activities. If you're finding that somebody doesn't have access or, they're struggling to find paper, just let us know. We can try and figure out something with the site facilitators. Okay. And then this last thing is just reflection, making sure that everybody has a chance at the end of the session just to say, did you like today? What did you learn today? Just one thing. It doesn't have to be like really intense. We've changed it up. We've taken out journaling. And so hopefully you can just do a very quick reflection, verbal reflection. You can use the chat if you want. You can just do like a thumbs up, thumbs down like this. Like, how is it going so far right now? You can tell me, right? There are lots of ways to do reflection that we really encourage you to do this. It's a very important skill for mentoring. And then the last thing about the cheer is just, sometimes it might be really awkward or weird for folks to stand up and to do a cheer in their homes. There are lots of ways to kind of adjust this. You can say maybe just one person is the one who has their sound on and it's shouting in their house. Everybody else can just lip sync it. Or you can change it up completely and just have folks do a shout out for each other. Like shout out to Sierra and Sage today for sharing and being willing to, speak in front of a room full of almost, 200 people. I think that's a big shout out you can do, right? There are lots of other ways to kind of close out and make sure that everybody leaves on a really good note. Okay, any questions about the content? I know for new mentors, it might feel like that's I'm speeding through, but please ask your team. They are experts in this. They can help you kind of move through like what's really important to emphasize, what's not so important, or how can we tweak things and do things differently. This is in the before time. Just love this picture. So the big picture is, again, to just make sure that we're focusing on connection and community. Like I said, if you sit there and just giggle for 45 minutes, that's great. Please do that. I encourage it. Make sure that everybody's having fun. Make sure that everybody comes in and leaves feeling a little bit better, right? That's youth work 101. Is just what can you do to just improve somebody's hour in a week? You can't do everything else, but if you can just have fun and relax. And it's for your co-mentors too, right? Maybe they're having a really tough week and they just need a little bit of a breather, a little breath of fresh air. And then again, just the flexibility, making sure that you can kind of just roll with it. Things happen all the time. And I've seen you all do this very, very well. Just keep that in mind that you don't have to do every single piece of the curriculum. You don't have to read every single thing. What are the big picture ideas that you want mentees to know and for everybody to just kind of take away with them? So Zoom expectations is fairly important for you to kind of set up at the beginning of the semester. This has everything to do with your do list, right? So this is an opportunity for you to jump in and say, what happens if somebody's background noise is turning on? Is it okay for a mentor to mute you? Just asking for permission, asking to make sure that that's an expectation that you put out so that everybody understands that that could be something that happens, right? And the same with cameras and engagement. Not everybody is able to turn their camera on. Not everybody wants to, but what are some other ways that if you don't have your camera on, what are some ways that mentees can still participate? They can use those reactions, they can be in the chat, they can figure out some other way that they're still participating and paying attention. I saw a really great mentor there was a mentee who was laying down in bed in the dark and she was playing some other video game. And the mentor was still able to kind of like ask her like, hey, what are you doing over there? Do you want to come join us? Do you want to participate? This is a question that we're working on. You know, like there are lots of ways to still engage somebody, even if they're very, very distracted and doing something very different, right? Names and pronouns, that could be something that you kind of throw on your expectations. Maybe at the start of every session, everybody comes in and changes their name and pronouns. I saw a lot, yep, that's Stephanie. A lot of folks who, a lot of mentees too, who are starting to share that they like they, them pronouns. That's what they use. And I think it's really fantastic for us to kind of model that and to do it every single time, right? It might feel like everybody knows my pronouns, but I think it's still very powerful that we continue to do it every single time. And then another big one is just bathrooms and breaks, making sure that you're kind of talking about what's the expectation for if anybody does need to take a break or does need to go to the bathroom. They should be able to just do that, but put that on your do list. Make sure everybody knows. All this review, we have the do list in your slide deck. We want you to kind of build that into it and just continue to have that as a reminder of what you're doing all the time. And you know, the agenda is fairly laid out. Our mentees are very familiar with what comes next, and we want that to be the case, right? We want them to know exactly what's coming up next so that they aren't shocked or anything like that. So I am moving very quickly. I apologize. Are we doing okay? And a thumbs up, thumbs down? All right. I have 10 minutes left. So safety and security, just a quick note that we are not doing any recordings of young people. We're not taking any screenshots of them in their space. This is a BPS policy. We can't do that. If you are very, very interested in trying to do something a little bit different just to kind of celebrate, please come talk to us. I know I think it was Sierra asked if we could take a picture. And I thought there was a different way to do it where instead of having everybody's piece, you can like draw something, just have an art piece and everybody hold it up, and that could be like just a celebration picture, making sure that we were keeping our young people safe. The links we send out to site facilitators and families, I haven't heard of any issues with that, but just please make sure you're not sharing it anywhere, everywhere, right? And then the breakout room consideration is just to make sure that it's never just one-to-one. We never want to just have one mentee and one mentor in a room. We want to make sure it's a minimum of 3 in a breakout room. And also just to use the breakout rooms. There are a number of sites that, you know, it starts to get a little bit more unmanageable when you have more than like 10 mentees. In a virtual setting, it feels very different. You have less space to kind of actually share and talk with each other. So please use your breakout rooms. If you have, you know, 12 students, it gets a little bit easier to manage, and you can switch it up so that everybody gets a chance to kind of meet with each other throughout your whole semester. So for incident reporting, please don't be saving any chats. The only time that we would consider it is if anybody is kind of disclosing something kind of sensitive in the chat and you want to just save it as a record. I think that might be the only situation that we encourage that. And again, if anything happens, please make sure that you kind of talk to your mentor team, reach out to us, reach out to your site facilitator, even if it's just a little thing that you're like, oh, they said this, I'm not sure if it's a big deal or if we can follow up on it. Site facilitators often know a whole lot more about what's going on at home. And we also have, some experience on what's the best next steps for us to kind of take in any sort of those situations. But it's very important that you say something anyway. And we hope that you can do that in 24 hours after it happens. So troubleshooting, obviously our internet is all over the place. Please make sure you share your hosting with somebody else just in case you happen to drop. This happened to me earlier today. I was in the middle of sharing something and luckily other people were there so it didn't completely lose the meeting. It's the same goes for audio, right? Sometimes your audio starts going weird and everybody starts sounding like robots. What do you do in that situation? What are other ways that you can kind of get folks to either step in? Like, let's say you're facilitating, all of a sudden your internet starts cutting out, you start sounding like a robot, you say, okay, Sarah, I need you to help me out. You can type that in the chat pretty quickly and have somebody else take over the facilitation for you. Same goes with muting, every once in a while in a meeting, something starts happening, construction, they're digging a hole outside. You can ask folks to kind of mute each other and just make sure that you're asking for consent before you do all that. That's why it's really important to put it into your view list and things like that. And we've already talked about the changing views. So these are, again, just a couple things to break up the Zoom fatigue. Take a dance break. You can dance to Ariana if you must, but pick a song that's, so she's got some of her late, more recent ones are just, oh gosh. But there are other games that you can play. You can do Mirror Mirror. A lot of these we've already kind of done last semester. If you are new to the curriculum, you can ask each other for what are some of the fan favorites. I think Night at the Museum is still a super fan favorite, and I think it still works in the virtual setting. It's just a virtual night at the museum where you're a security guard sitting at the video station instead of being in person, things like that. I still think it's pretty fun. And there are lots of other tools, other apps, other sites out there that you can please bring in. If you don't like the Get Active that is already part of curriculum, please bring something else in. Have your young people tell you what they like, what they really like doing. Hot Seat is a fan favorite. They love doing that. They could do Hot Seat all the time. Okay. So very quickly, I have 5 minutes left. I just wanted to kind of preview our curriculum for this semester. Obviously, the first two are very focused around relationship building. We play a lot of Hot Seat. I think it's a lot of fun there. We have really fantastic role models this semester. Zayana Bryant is Black Lives Matter activist who managed to take down a Robert E. Lee statue back in 2016. And she's still out there doing the good work. Malala Yousafzai, obviously very famous young leader for girls' education. Jamad Finn is a local activist and leader in the Somali and Muslim communities. She is really good at basketball and she's low-key famous, and we have developed a whole service project around her story, and we're encouraging young people to include sports in their days. And so the service project is one, writing a letter to her, and then the part two is also creating like a summer camp, because she originally reached out to us with the hopes of doing some sort of summer basketball camp with us. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out, but we can have our young people kind of design their own camps. And then we have lots of other really cool activities, lots of really great role models. You can please feel free to look through and let us know. If you see any edits, anything that you're concerned about, please let us know. It's not too late to kind of change up the curriculum. I know we got some feedback last semester about some language that we were using. We were able to kind of change the lesson plans, change the slide decks to make sure that it reflects our mistake, right? It's never too late to kind of just say something. Sorry, it can be too late, but like if we've already gone past it, it's too late, but I still think that you should say something anyway, right? We want this feedback from you all as members. Any questions so far? Okay, So the last 3 slides are things that we've added to the slide decks. This is part of every single slide deck that we're creating now. It has a Spotify playlist, it has an incident report, it has a Salesforce login, and also a reflection survey. So site leaders, there's no more excuses for you all. The links are right here. We hope you can do this in your reflection session at the end of a session. It's right here. We really do want to hear what's going well, what's not going so well, so that we can follow up and make sure that it doesn't continue that way for the rest of the semester. I know the reflection survey was kind of gone. Last semester, we were trying something else that didn't quite work out, but we're going to do this instead. It's a really quick survey. It's just tell us how you felt about it. It won't take you too long unless something needs a little bit more support. This is that circle activity. This is just a sample that Julia found for us that she used with her group. And you can find something else, you can design your own. This is just different foods, and you can kind of put different names in here just so that you have an order, you're sitting in a circle. I think it's pretty cool. You can use this if you want, you can create your own. And this is that timer thing. You can search whatever you want. This one happens to be a club music version. You don't have to use that. You can use a different one, whatever you like. But it's also just kind of helpful to put a timer out there for an activity. You can just have this kind of playing in the background, or you can just turn on music, whatever works for you. But it's just a resource if you need it. Nope. Don't. Okay. Okay, so like I said, just as a reflection is an important tool for your sessions, I'm just going to ask you all to kind of turn your cameras on just for 2 seconds and give me a thumbs up, sideways, or down for how you thought this session went. Yeah, great. It's lovely to see all of your faces. That's great. Thank you. Okay, and on top of that, Sarah is going to be putting the survey link into the chat. I hope everybody can just take a couple of seconds to do that real quick. Just to give us some feedback on how the session went, if there's anything else that you need as mentors to kind of get yourself ready for stuff that you've already done before, right? A lot of this is just review. You've already done this. You are the experts. I'm just trying to pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
Quick question. Sorry, will these slides be available after this session?
Yeah, of course. Yes. I'm going to try and send it out to all your chapter directors. There's an entire folder that's open to everybody. It will have all the training materials, all the training slides. It'll have the curriculum. It'll have the incident reports. All this stuff is definitely available to everybody. Yes. And the recordings too. We're recording all of these trainings. If you need to go back, or somebody in your chapter didn't get to make it to this session, they can watch a recording. There's a quick survey for them to also just finish it out. We do want you to do these surveys because that's how we know if you've actually gone to the sessions. But these will all be available pretty soon. I think we have to just download and clip them a little bit, but they should be ready midweek. Okay. All right. I know many of you are probably still finishing up the survey. I do want to get you out of here on time though. So we're going to do the cheer, and I'm going to ask if maybe 2 folks want to come off mute and do it, and then everybody else can stand up and do it with everybody. You can keep yourself on mute just so it doesn't start sounding weird, right? How many folks have done that where it starts sounding really odd when you do the cheer? Does anybody want to volunteer to lead us? Maybe 1 or 2 people. Yeah, slow motion cheers. Much quieter than they usually are. In person, our mentees love to shout at the top of their lungs. We can't do that as much. All right, who wants to?
I can do it.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Okay.
Does anyone else want to do it with me? Or
Yes, please. Anybody else who wants to do it with Maggie? Brave and kind souls, please.
Come on, we can do it together, y'all. All right, I'll just do it. Ready? I am strong. I am proud. I'm not afraid to shout out loud. Strong women, strong girls.
girls.
Strong women, strong girls. Strong women, strong girls. Strong women, strong girls.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks
all.
everybody for making time today. I hope you had a good day. I hope you continue to have a really great semester. Please reach out. We're here for you, and we want to hear from you. Okay? Thank you so much. Please finish out those surveys, and we will see you all pretty soon. Take care.
Bye, everyone.